Mic'd up with Mikie Mahtook. Got the boys in. I got Lloyd. We got Mitch. We got Jackie Boyd.
He tried to jump up, and he might have knocked it in.
Good timing. Let's go. What a start to the Monday. I mean, I'm from Lafayette. My boys will come in and say,
oh, God. So me and Joe on the ground. I got Joe in the headlock. And he's sitting there, he's punching me in the stomach, like, punching me.
Here, is everyone sitting around, who here thinks Ochinko can practice today after having 5 full beers? And he goes, Chad Jones, right? Chad's doing the 6 minutes. For 7 minutes, right? Chad's like, no, man, I don't think Ochinko can practice today. And I was like, I look back, I'm like, Jesus Christ. I saw you there. You were more fucked up than me.
On the spirit plane had some issues, I think. She was sleep farting.
You heard her or you just thought it was her?
I sat right next to her and I smelled it.
Whoa. What was that?
Time for the show.
Now, when you do go to spring training, are you gonna bring your chinchilla and your turtle?
My dad tell you about it.
The SEC is, God, they hate fat people. I mean, I get crushed for that. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, man.
Hey, just the South, bro. You got a bunch of food down here. Like they should.
Look at Lloyd.
You know what, Lloyd?
You're looking for a recruiting coordinator, coach. I'm here.
He's like, I'll piss my pants right now.
No way.
We're wearing gray pants, long gray pants. He goes, I'll piss my pants right now. Hello. Welcome back to Mic'd Up. Today is Wednesday, April 10th. We have a big show for you today. Obviously, LSU is coming off a big win against Mc'd. Not big in the sense of colossal.
Weight. Just like gaining weight.
It's a big win because it's coming off of a weekend loss. It's coming off of a weekend where you don't have a lot of confidence in the pitching staff or the offense. Last night, the pitching staff, I think, only walked 1 or 2 guys, gave up 1 hit, and the offense scored 16 runs. We're going to get to that, but we have a big show for you today. Mitch, our co-host, is not here right now. He is doing some bigger and better things right now. He is in Charlotte. He is preparing for his debut on ESPN The Ocho on SEC Network. So we have him zooming in from Charlotte. Look, Lloyd was producing. We also have Mike Rooney live at a minute ago from D1 Baseball. He's going to be here and talk all things college baseball, all things SEC baseball. We're going to throw in some LSU questions at him because he is not as biased as we are. And so we want to see what his take is, what he's seen from LSU. And we have a whole hell of a lot more to talk about in the sports world. But before we get to the other sports, let's talk about baseball. Let's talk about LSU, and let's talk about the SEC because the SEC, as we know, is the gauntlet. Right, LSU has gone through 4 series, 3 of those 4 against top 10 opponents in the SEC. Has started off 3-9 in conference, but we have Mike Rooney here to talk. He's the expert. We are just fans now. We are no longer players. We are not the experts. We are fans. Mike Rooney, I appreciate you coming back on, friend of the show. I think we figured out all of the technical difficulties that we had last time, so we appreciate you joining us again.
Yeah, good to see you guys. When you said you're just fans, Mikey, it made me think of whenever we put something on, like there's a ranking that fans don't care for. There's my favorite comment is they say that we don't know ball. Like that's, and it kind of felt like you were saying that about yourself, is that you're just a fan. You don't know ball anymore, even though you played in the big league. So I don't think that's the case, but I appreciate that humility on your part.
I appreciate you giving us some props. I like to think that we know a little bit about what we're talking about, but sometimes you get the purple and gold glasses on here. So it's nice to have an unbiased opinion, but let's get into it. Obviously, LSU hasn't gotten off to the start that they had hoped in the SEC. They're 3-9 with 18 games left. They are at the bottom of the SEC West standings, at the bottom of the SEC standings as a whole. Super talented team. I don't believe it has anything to do with talent. They just haven't really put it together. What are you seeing from somebody who's not as close to the program as us, someone who's seen it from afar? What are you seeing on your side?
Yeah, I'd say I'm thinking of the LSU situation in two ways. It's like what like the 2024 season, and then just ongoing. What does this program need to look like? And I think if we just focus on 2024, it's probably going to be fine, right? 3-9 in the league is a disaster. I get that. And losing 4 straight series is unprecedented. And an RPI of 45 with a 3-7 record against Q1 teams, none of that is right. Good. But you think about it, if LSU can go 11-7 down the stretch in the SEC, and that puts them at 14-16, you're probably in the NCAA tournament at that point, and who knows what can happen. Nobody would want to see LSU show up in their regional as a 2 seed or a 3 seed. But I'm curious what you guys think on this regard. My concern with LSU is not, like you said, they're super talented. That's still the case. It just doesn't seem the same.
Right.
Last year's team had, and we knew they were going to lose this, right? Gavin Dugas, Jordan Thompson, Riley Cooper, Kay Beloso, Trey Morgan, Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz, Ty Floyd. Skeens and Cruz are big leaguers, so that's a huge loss. But there's that's the heartbeat of this team, that team last year. And so I think that's what they're missing. The team looks a little lethargic, not lazy lethargic, but just disconnected.
Yeah.
And, so here's the question I want to ask you guys. I think one of the things from the outside that always makes LSU baseball special is they can recruit the country, but there's this fabric of Louisiana kids that would run through a wall for LSU baseball. Chris Burke would say the care factor is off the charts. And then you mix that with the national, the ability to recruit anyone you want, really. And I just, I look at LSU right now, I don't see a ton of Louisiana kids that are playing. And I'm not saying that please don't hear me say, Jay Johnson, here's the fixture problem. But just start filling out the lineup card with Louisiana kids. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying, when I see this team looking not the same and a little disconnected and a little there's a little bit of a zombie feel to it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it it doesn't have the same Louisiana fabric as usual?
I'm glad.
Or am I oversimplifying that?
I'm glad you said that, because we actually talked about this on the show on Monday, and I've talked about it a lot off air, and some of the other conversations I've had is you're 100% right. You lose super talented players last year, and Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens. You can't expect to replace those guys because those guys are 1 and 2 in the draft, right? You don't get those guys very often, but you also have to replace the Belosos and the Joe Bears. And you have the Dugases and all the guys who have been there for 4, 5, 6 years, some of them 6 years, right? And you only have 2 of those guys on this team, in Travinsky and Milazzo, right? Travinsky's been playing every day. Milazzo's kind of mixes and matches, comes in at the back end of the games as a defensive replacement. But I think you're 100% right. You don't have the guys that you normally have even they don't even have this play. In 2009, I made the example of 2009. We had a bunch of 4th and 5th year seniors that a lot of them didn't even play, but they had the fabric and they had the leadership of the team. And I'm with you. I think that's kind of missing. You can't recreate that, right? You can only create that by having those guys stay in the program, for those years. And I think that with the NIL and transfer portal and all of those types of things, you're seeing less and less of these guys stay at one program for 4 or 5 years and be that older veteran leader. We saw with UConn in basketball. UConn's was a very veteran team in basketball, and you see what they've won 2 straight. Like it matters in sports, and especially in baseball, right? Especially when in Louisiana. So I agree with you. I don't think that it feels the same as it has in the past as far as Louisianians on the team. But you got some young guys that are from Louisiana that you would hope that would grow into that role. And I think Jay's kind of trying to find that perfect mix. You mentioned 14 and 16, right? If they go 11 and 7, which I think is very doable, I think it's possible for them to even do better than that. But based off of what we've seen, 11 and 7 seems doable. Is 14 the number that they have to get to feel comfortable making it to the NCAA tournament? And if they got to 15 and 15 and they started playing really good baseball down the stretch, is there a possibility that they can somehow sneak into like a regional host?
I mean, anything, you know how it goes, like anything's possible. Like, is 14 and 16 comfortable? It will be extremely uncomfortable the night before the selection show, right? Like, if you're under 500 in the league, you are not sleeping, and not that Jay Johnson is sleeping the night before the selection show. Even if he was the number 1 seed, he would be awake all night, texting all of us. But I think it's hard to say. The problem for LSU right now, to me, is like, what are the signature wins on this resume? Like, the Minute Maid deal is good because Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns are killing it, so that's a big win. The Texas win has lost a lot of shine. Like, they're, kind of middle of the pack in the Big 12. So, that makes the series against Tennessee this weekend and the series against A&M really important, because if you want to host, you're going to need to have more on the resume than just 15 SEC wins. You're going to have some wins, like a series win that says, okay, boom, like this is a team that has found its way. But I actually don't think hosting is that big a deal for this team. Like, the best version of this team would be a nightmare to show up in your regional. Like, they're so talented. But we haven't seen, I don't know, like, you guys watch it closer than I do. Obviously we all watch LSU, but the best version of this team, they feel like they're a pretty good distance away from that version of themselves. Yeah. Like, the real question is, how do they bridge that gap? And I don't know what the answer to that is.
Jay, I think you got one for him, right?
Yeah, Mike, I'm so glad you brought it to that, because where you started with that answer and where you ended with that answer, right in the middle of that is kind of what I wanted to talk with you about, in the sense of, so you see this team, and anything can happen this week. We've seen it before. We've been lucky enough to be a part of teams that's kind of done some crazy things that we didn't think could be done, right? But like you said, where you're seeing this team at today, if you're looking at them from the outside looking in, do you see this team getting some of these guys to either step up on the mound, step up in the lineup to be able to get that team over the hump and into a spot where you're like, hey, they got a chance. They may make a run.
Yeah, I think I think about Ole Miss a couple years ago, right? Like, Ole Miss, with 3 weekends left, they're 7 and 14 in the league. Like, I think it's easy for us to forget that. We talked a lot about it a couple years ago, but 7 and 14, like, you're done, right? Like, your season's over. And next thing you know, they're national champions. And I get it. Like, it was, they go 7 and 2 down the stretch. But the difference for that Ole Miss team was Tim Elko's sitting there, right? Kevin Graham's sitting there. Justin Bench is sitting there. I actually think this LSU team is probably significantly more talented than that Ole Miss team. But I don't see a Tim Elko on this LSU roster. Gavin Dugas was Tim Elko, right? Like, those kids are gone. And so I think that's what I'm so curious about with this LSU team, is who are the 1 or 2 or 3 guys that are going to say, fellas, get behind me and let's go. We're going forward. I don't know who the leaders of this team are. And, but it's going to take that. I don't think Jay Johnson can coax them into that type of run. Like, this is going to, I don't want to be critical of Tommy White here, but I'm just going to say it. Tommy White is a great player, but I don't see him as put a C on his chest. I don't think that's Tommy's gig. Tommy's gig is, you need 3 hits tonight, I'll get you 4.
Right.
But and he's playing great defense. But so that's when and maybe LSU's team doesn't know who their dudes are this year. That to me seems like the real challenge.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's my thought process on this. When I watch him, you bring up Tim Elko, and I think, okay, the Tim Elkos is the type of guys that get you going into a rubber match on Sunday and they get you over the hump and you win a series. Instead, seemingly, we haven't had the Tim Elko step up that can rally troops and get guys behind him. and they've gone the exact opposite way on Sunday. They've gotten 10-run rule 3 times on Sunday. And that, for me, is where I'm like, that's why I worry about this team, because that shouldn't happen. It's one thing if you get railroaded on Friday, Thursday or Friday, and you get beat again on Saturday, and then you get 10-run ruled on Sunday. You're like, well, you're probably just not that good of a team. You probably have some holes in the lineup, have some holes in the staff. You're just probably not a very good team. But they go into these games, and it's a rubber match, and you have a chance to win a series, and it goes completely the other way. That for me feels like either super young or they're all looking around and saying, who's the leader? Who's going to actually step up and get this thing done?
Yeah, and maybe it's one of the young guys. Like maybe it's Jared Jones. Like I like the way Jared Jones, like, you know, every time I watch LSU play, Jared Jones is glaring at somebody and somebody's glaring at Jared Jones. Now they're not coming up on Jared Jones because that would be a bad career move. But you know, like they're definitely exchanging words. And so, but you know, he's a sophomore, right? It's not easy to be a leader as a sophomore. I don't know. Like it's going to be really interesting because, as you know, like, this team, anybody would trade rosters with Jay Johnson, right? Like just the sheer talent on this roster, you'd bet on that all day long. It's going to be, I mean, LSU's going to be must-see TV down the stretch because you know they're not going to just fold up their tents. But what they're doing right now is not working either.
Yeah, look, you mentioned the freshman. We've talked about that too. Maybe it's a freshman that doesn't lead them the whole way, but sparks them and then really starts to bring the older guys and the guys that have been there and have that experience in the at-bats. They kind of bring them along, right? You kind of saw it last night. Jay shuffling up the lineup. He had Jared Jones leading off. He had 2 freshmen, Kucherak, who hadn't played all year. He only had 7 at-bats, started at shortstop. You had Larson, who's been playing really well as of late, got a start in the outfield. Kling was back in there. Kling had another couple hits. Opposite field, right center field double. We've been talking about that for the last 4 weeks. I need to see him do something like that to feel like his swing is starting to come back. He's done that a few games in a row, so that looks good. My point in bringing up all of those changes in those lineups, Jay has tried to figure out the magic lineup all year. He likes to mix and match. He likes to put guys in and out. As a player, sometimes, especially as a young player, sometimes you wish, man, just give me 2 weeks to show you. Let me get comfortable in this lineup. Do you think that's something that we could potentially see going forward? Because the other side hasn't really been that effective as of up to now.
Yeah, I think it's tricky, right? Like and Jay is, you're right, like Jay is going to, he's going to overcoach, not undercoach, right? Like that's always going to be his way. And I think one of Jay's really it's an unusual strength is that he can keep the bottom of his roster alive as good as anybody. Meaning like a guy will not play for a month and then come out of nowhere. That's hard to do. Like a lot of coaches, when you bench a guy for a month, you might as well send him to summer ball. Yeah. But Jay is not that way. Like he can keep that player alive, and the next thing you know, that player's a key guy. I think where a lot of coaches, their default position when they feel like they don't like the heartbeat of their team is they're just going to say, I'm going to fill up the lineup with my 9 toughest kids. You know, the kids that I think can take a punch, and let's just figure it out. And you know, if you're on LSU's roster, you're good enough, right? Like if you're even on the roster and you got a uniform, I know you're talented. So, but it'll be interesting, Mikey, because I think we are at the point for even the coaches that like to tinker, you're getting like it's getting late early. Yeah. And most coaches are getting to the point in the season where it's like, if you don't know who your 9 are when you wake up every morning, that is not a good feeling. So it'll be interesting. Like it's like even I think about again, I'm not taking a shot at Michael Braswell, who has played really well, right? But Jordan Thompson, like you need some Jordan Thompsons right now where they can play poorly and they're still like, I always love that about Jordan Thompson. Even when he played poorly and was getting just, crushed by ridicule, he was always up for the next fight. Yeah. Like he never went backwards. There was no retreat in Jordan Thompson. It was like he was ignorant of what his stats were and when he made his last error. So like those are the type of kids that you need right now. Cause again, like we've said many times, there's plenty of raw talent.
A couple more questions about LSU before we go to the SEC as a whole, because the SEC has been very interesting, I guess, is a great way to say it. Florida's been very interesting. Obviously Tennessee's been good. Vanderbilt's been good. A&M's has been very good. It just doesn't seem like there's someone running away with it. Obviously Arkansas seems like but they don't swing it all that great. So I want to get into those kind of questions, but we talk about the lineup. I think going into the season, the pitching staff was the thing that everybody was looking forward to. This pitching staff is deeper. We've said it on the show a lot. This pitching staff is deeper than the pitching staff was last year, more talent from top to bottom. You're not going to miss much on the mound. You may even be better on the mound, and it has not been the case, right? Luke Holman's been good. Gage Jump's been okay, right? He's been good enough. They haven't found a number 3 starter. Thatcher Hurd hasn't been great, and the number 3 starter has been a Johnny Holstaff for the last month. As a guy that kind of evaluates baseball players and watches baseball players all around the country, how does this bullpen, how does this talented pitching staff stack up against some of these other schools? And who would you like to potentially see step up out of the bullpen?
Yeah, I think it's, one thing I will say is just if you look at it nationally, the group of elite pitchers feels bigger than normal, in college baseball. Like there's some we're going to look up in July at the draft, and there's going to be a ton of college pitchers that are taken really early. But then there's like this abyss with 1 million college pitchers who are getting their brains beaten in right now.
Yeah.
Like it is, and I know like if you look at the stats, the home runs per game are literally the exact same number as last year, but it just feels like offenses are putting huge numbers up left and right.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of reasons, right? Like the bats feel hot, the balls feel hot. Yeah. I think pitching instruction is, pitching training is about all or nothing, right? Yeah. Like I either want to miss a bat or I don't care if I throw a ball.
Yeah.
And so like everything about pitching right now is high risk, high reward. And, like the risk is real and guys are in bad counts and they're throwing harder and they're more vulnerable. And so I think there's a lot of reasons, but I just, the offense is up. And so I think, for LSU, you're right. Like, I mean, Griffin Herring has been amazing. I mean, do you move him in the rotation? I'm sure you guys have talked about that a million times. I think Gage Jump, his numbers in the SEC aren't very good, but, like the kid had 16 college innings coming into the year. Like, to your point, you'll take what he's giving you. I mean, hey, if LSU wants to be who they want to be, Thatcher Hurd's got to figure it out. Nate Ackenhouse has got to be better. Like, Javen Coleman is talented, right? Like, Justin Lohr is lost at sea. Gavin Guidry, like, that's one that's shocking. I don't know. There's plenty of choices there. It's just going to be a matter of, we talked about this last year, I think, like, I felt like we talked about Jay's got to settle on 7 or 8 arms and let just roll. Yep. And you asked about it with the lineup, Mikey. Maybe it's with the pitching staff. Like, hey, you 7 or 8 are getting the ball, and that's it. And like, don't look in the dugout. Like, we're not taking you out of the game. Maybe that's the answer right there. But I would say LSU's not the only one with pitching problems. Pitching's been hard to come by.
Mikey asked you about the guy out of the pen that would step up. Before we move into kind of the SEC talk and the national kind of perspective of this whole thing, that Sunday spot's wide open. And, you've been seeing Griffin throw really well, but we haven't seen another guy who can get out there and get you 4 to 5 to 6 innings. Who do you think that they can slide into that spot? Because a lot of the other names you mentioned as well have all been, as we've seen them in purple and gold, they've all been pretty much bullpen guys and guys that have come out of the pen. Who do you think can slide into that Sunday spot and start to get you that kind of a quality outing?
And there's one guy you didn't mention either, but I'm gonna see if it pops in your head. He's a young guy. He's been throwing a lot.
Yeah, so the Cade Anderson is the Louisiana freshman, if I'm not mistaken, and he's been really good in the midweek. And if I was Jay, and I'm not there every day clearly, but I would say, okay, I feel like my offense has got a chance to be good. The other team's not going to have a good Sunday starter either, right? Like, now I know Arkansas is an exception, right? But everybody else, and he doesn't even have, you guys aren't playing Arkansas, or you already played Arkansas. So yeah, there you go. It's all good. You don't have to worry about that anymore. So I would, well played. I would say, like, who can take a punch, to beat up the boxing analogy? Like, I want somebody that's going to get me 15 outs. I don't care how ugly it is. This kid's not going to back down, and just and send a message to my offense that, hey, just whatever. I don't care how we win this game. Let's just go win this game. But it can't be somebody that's going to walk people. Like, that's for me, and maybe that's a little old-fashioned, but when you start walking people, that's when your offense starts to feel like, oh, man, we're going to put up 12 today. So that would be my thought is, like, who's trustable, who throws strikes and isn't scared. Give me that dude. And if that's Cade Anderson, man, I don't know. Could Gavin Guidry even start? I don't know. I want somebody that's got a little, a little you know what in their neck.
Yeah, I agree with you. The walks have been a problem out of the pen and on the staff as a whole, but definitely once you get to Sunday, especially we're getting into that time of the season too, where it's hot, series is long. You can't have guys out there where it's just walk after walk and you're leaving guys out there on the field like that. It's going to be hard for them to come back in and put up anything offensively, and it's also hard for them to play defense behind.
Yeah.
Pitching performance like that. So you need someone who's going to get up there and literally just challenge the strike zone. If you get beat around, you get beat around, but you give yourself a team, your team a chance to actually stay in the fight.
Who's your guys' choice? Is it Cade Anderson? Who do you guys want to see in that role?
You named both of them.
Obviously, we don't coach the team, so it really doesn't matter. But that's the guy. When I saw him throw against Southeastern earlier in the year, just the moxie that he pitched with, the competitiveness that he pitched with, the attitude that he brought to it, I was like, he's young. He's really only dominating them with one pitch right now. But that's who I give a chance on Sunday because I know he's just running and filling it up.
Yep, I like Griffin Herring too, but the only I kind of backed off of that because I think Jay likes having him being able to finish that game with home, and that's kind of worked well for him the last, the two of the three SEC wins. That's what happened. So maybe I don't think that's an option, but the Cade Anderson thing to me. One, he's looked really good. He's got an electric fastball, and I think the other stuff is going to continue to develop. But he's going to be your guy that you're going to rely on for the next 2 years. So why not give him some weekend experience in the SEC, knowing he's going to be potentially your ace for the next 2 years, right? They did it with Gosman when he came in as a freshman. I was a junior, and he was a freshman, and Gosman took his lumps early in the year and ended up with a 3.5 ERA. Now, granted, it was a new BB Core bat, so they were as dead as they can be. But still, he got the experience, and then the next year he was the best pitcher in the SEC and got drafted 4th overall. So, I think to me, one, Cade Anderson's talented, and I think he can go deeper, and he competes and he throws strikes. But two, he's going to be your ace, hopefully for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm in. That works for me.
Perfect. I'm glad I sold you. All right. Well, so LSU goes this weekend to Tennessee. Tennessee obviously has been a household name over the last few years. Obviously, they have been in Omaha. They've been very polarizing team, I guess you can say. And over the last few years, the rivalry with LSU has kind of gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, LSU's going to Tennessee, struggling, looking for it. They're desperate for a series win. What can they expect? What does Tennessee have to offer? They're ranked in the top 10 in the country. Obviously, they're hitting home runs at a crazy rate. What does Tennessee look like as a team, and what can we expect as fans to see from them this weekend?
Yeah, I would say Tennessee's not who you want to play when your pitching staff is struggling, and you certainly don't want to play them in Knoxville. You guys have played there, I'm sure, but it is an unbelievable hitter's park. It plays very small. The ball flies. It's literally downhill. Center field, the base of the center field fence is lower than home plate. It is. Wow. You're literally hitting downhill. I say literally. That's what I've seen. But maybe some engineer could contradict that. But long story short, they're hitting 1 million home runs. And so I think the problem Tennessee presents is the game can be going along fine, and next thing you know, they put up a 5 spot, and they do it. It's like lightning striking. And it's a really deep lineup. They're physical. They're old. Their position player group is very strong. The one thing I'd say about Tennessee is they're a little vulnerable on the mound. Their ace has been A.J. Causey, and he's been brilliant at times. He's had a couple really, really rough starts. And, you all are familiar with Drew Beam. Drew Beam is as tough of a competitor as there is, but Drew Beam is not a guy that's going to go 7 innings, 1 hit. He's going to just manage traffic and pitch his way. Drew Beam is like that 30-year-old big leaguer who just never gets sped up and just can pitch out of trouble, all that type of stuff. So I think you can score on Tennessee. The question is, can you hold them down enough to beat them? And Tennessee has dropped some games. I actually thought I picked them as my national champion before the season. And I just they're 7-5 in the league, right? I know they're 27-6 overall, and they have 1 million home runs. But I think if your pitching can hang in there and your offense, it's going to be a great place to hit. again, they're 7-5. It's not like they're sitting there at 11-1 and in the league and piping hot, but it's going to be a tough place to play. Their fans are, aggressive. The place is going to be juiced up. It's a tough place to play. You'll have your hands full there, but if LSU plays well this weekend, hey, maybe that crowd, because they're less than polite, right? Like maybe that crowd can help LSU find another gear.
As this thing plays out this weekend, how do you see this thing going? Like, is LSU going to have to win a couple of low-scoring ball games and be able to keep their offense kind of neutral? Or are they going to have to go there and basically bang it out and hit the ball all over the park and find ways to put up big numbers offensively to kind of come out there with a series win and or better?
So I think both. Mitch, I think so I'm going to say it this way. I think sweeping Tennessee at their place is probably an unrealistic expectation. So let's just take that off the table.
Right.
So now Jay's got to find 2 wins, right? So I think one of them is, hey, offense, like Tommy's got to have 4 hits and go deep twice one game, right? Like Jared Jones maybe goes deep twice in the same game. LSU's offense could trade punches with these guys on the right day. And so I think one of the wins is that. One of the wins is, I think if I'm Jay, it's like, hey, offense, you got to win one of these games. And then, hey, pitching staff, you got to win one of these games. Right? Yeah. Like Holman and Herring, sorry, but you got to do it tonight. Like we need 4 runs or less. And then, so I think that's the formula. One big offense day, one day where the day Herring pitches, that's got to be a win.
Yeah. No doubt. I completely agree. And I think you nailed it with the crowd, right? I think being at Tennessee on the road with a hostile environment and you go there and you're able to sneak out 2 wins, I think that's a really good way to jumpstart your season and, kind of have this trajectory of winning games and learning how to win. Because it feels like they don't really know how to win just yet with a bunch of new guys in different roles. Moving around the SEC, obviously, it's a super talented league. The most interesting team to me, I just can't really figure them out, is Florida. Right? Florida is 17 and 15. They just got beat 19-3 yesterday against Florida State, which we're actually going to ask you about Florida State because they seem like they're kind of a real deal. But Florida's 17 and 15. They're ranked in the top 25. They have all this talent, maybe the best player in college baseball. What is going on over there?
Yeah, Florida is, the rankings with Florida, it's like you've got series wins at Miami, LSU, Mississippi State, A&M. Those are 4 loud weekends. Now, the way some of those teams have played, those weekends have lost some of their luster, but they've been miserable. They've lost 6 of 7 Tuesday games now, and Florida State has run them off the field basically 3 times on weekdays. And so I watched. Missouri is rebuilding, right? Their offense is young and not ready for the SEC. And Jack Caglione didn't get out of the 2nd inning. Yeah. So I purposely went back and watched that replay because I was like, how did Mizzou, who's dead last in the SEC in offense, how did they have 7 hits out of 14 hitters against Cags? And when you look at it, what's revealed is that Florida's defense, I didn't realize it was where it is. They are average at best at every position, and at several positions they're below average. The 7 hits Cags gave up, it was 2 flares, an infield single that should have been an out, 2 pop-ups that should have been caught, and then 2 legit line drives. And when Cags pitches, he's a really good first baseman, so they lose that. So Florida's big issues are they have too many freshmen pitching. They're talented, but they're freshmen. Their offense is just wild swinging. They're last in the SEC in walks, I believe. So it's either they run into a home run or they don't score, and they don't even pressure the other team. And then their defense is really struggling. And so, even though they're very talented and they're capable of being explosive offensively, I think those are some real vulnerabilities. It's shocking to see what Florida's capable of. And then what they're capable on the good side, what they're capable on the not so good side.
So you mentioned in Florida, they've had some, like you said, some very loud weekends. If they were to go on a run and go on a stretch, you will still kind of point at the weekends that they've had already because of who they've beaten and how they've beaten them. There's 2 other teams I kind of want to talk about. One, obviously I think is the elephant in the room is how in the hell is Kentucky doing what they're doing right now? But secondly, I feel like this other team we talked about as much as a Florida or an LSU or somebody like that to start the year, and somehow even with the big time transfer they got into the school, they've kind of going under the radar, and they're still a top 3 team in A&M.
Yeah, so I would say let me do Kentucky first. So Kentucky's really interesting. Mark Etheridge, who we work with at D1 Baseball, he said something really interesting. Like the headline on Kentucky is Minge, Nick Mingione made a drastic style change a couple years ago where he basically said, look, the SEC is about power arms and power hitters, and we're just not winning that war. So he went dead opposite. What they've done is they've gone West Coast, hey, we're going to suffocate you with defense and pitching, and we're going to be opportunistic and play team offense. But the difference is Minge is not doing it with Big West athletes, no offense. He's doing it with the athletes that the SEC attracts. And when he started down this road, it was, I think we were all a little suspicious. And then last year, it's like, okay, they host a regional, they win a regional. And then this year, you're like, I don't know, can you do it? There was a lot of close calls last year, a lot of close shaves. Can you do it again? And Mark Etheridge said this. He said, Kentucky's not beating teams. They're like beating them into submission. Like teams are quitting against Tennessee or against Kentucky. Like I can't even say it right. Like I keep talking to say Tennessee. Kentucky's doing this, right? Like I keep having these subliminal slips. And so, hey, they Emilian Petre, their second baseman's a great player. Their shortstop, Grant Smith, has 3 errors in 85 starts. Wow. He has 85 starts and 3 errors. Like it's hilarious. When you hit a ground ball to short, their whole dugout screams, wrong guy. Like you hit the ball to the wrong guy because it's an out. They've moved Travis Smith to the bullpen. I watched him against Alabama. It's 96 with a vicious slider. Like he was probably miscast as a starter. He's a nightmare at the end of the game. So truth be told, like we know Kentucky has not played the best part of their schedule yet, but they've played 12 SEC games. It's not like they've not been playing whatever games. Right. I mean, they're still SEC games.
They put themselves at 11-1. They put themselves in a pretty good spot going into the hardest part of their schedule.
Amen. Yeah. It's basically idiot proof at this point, right? Like no doubt. You 11-1, you almost can't mess it up, right?
No doubt. And Jay mentioned A&M, right? They brought in Braden Montgomery, right? This is the last team I want to touch on. I know we keeping you a little longer than I told you we would, but it's okay.
All good.
They brought in Braden Montgomery from Stanford, right? He visits LSU, ends up not coming to LSU. You think he's going to go back to Stanford. They end up getting him. I was interested to see how he was going to make the adjustment when he got to the SEC, and he's been balling. Their whole team has been balling. What do you see from A&M, and what makes them so good?
Yeah, I think A&M is, Jim Schlossnagle is, I'm going to say there's a better way to say this, but he feels like an underrated head coach to me, right? Like, and maybe it's because he has not won his national title yet, but Jim Schlossnagle's taken 6 different teams to Omaha, and he's just he's wired like Jay, like he's just a very savvy college baseball CEO. And if you look, the kind of book cover for A&M is those first 3 hitters are as scary as it gets in college baseball. Gavin Grahovic, the freshman, he's their leadoff hitter. He's like 6'2", 210, and just rakes. And their 2-hole hitter is Jace Laviolette, who's a 6'6" center fielder. Like he's a star player. And then Braden Montgomery is having a massive year. If it wasn't for Charlie Condon and Travis Bazzana, the name we'd be talking about is Braden Montgomery. He is just an animal of an offensive player, and it's an 80 arm in right field. Like he is so gifted. The question mark, and then they've got a couple Ivy League transfers sprinkled in there. Hayden Schott, Jackson Appel, their catcher, and those kids are 5th-year seniors that have played a lot of baseball that are really, really good players. So they just have a good mix there. I think the question with A&M is their pitching good enough? And Ryan Prager is not a traditional ace in that he doesn't throw 96 or anything like that, but he has missed a lot of bats. And I don't know, like A&M is a really good team. It's clearly an Omaha roster. I'm not ready to say that they're like in Arkansas's tier yet. And they certainly have not played as well as Kentucky's played. But A&M, those top 3 hitters alone would be enough to keep you up at night getting ready for that series.
No doubt. It's a gauntlet. SEC is a gauntlet. I mean, we saw Missouri sweep Florida. You just never know what you're going to get. So, like I said, it's almost at the halfway mark. You have 18 games left. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, in 3 or 4 weeks, we'll have you back on. LSU's in a whole different situation, and I'm sure the SEC will be even more of a mess than it is now. But like always, we appreciate you coming on the show. We appreciate your insight, and we will have you on again here in the next few weeks once everything starts to really kind of get locked in. So appreciate you.
Jay Mitch, go get him, man. Knock him dead.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right. See
man.
y'all.
See you later. I mean, we could have kept him on for a long time talking all SEC. I wanted to get in there because I wanted to talk about, Mississippi State's kind of made a little bit of a turnaround. They're 500 in conference. Georgia obviously is not winning a ton of games, but Charlie Condon's is doing things that nobody's doing. What's that?
I said he's loud, so it's hard to not look.
Right. Ole Miss is struggling, LSU's struggling, Missouri swept Florida. You got a lot of things. You got a lot of moving parts. You got a lot of teams that are good. You got a lot of teams that are great. You got a lot of teams that are supposed to be great that aren't. So I wanted to get into that. We got into a little bit of it. He's great. Always love having him on. Lloyd, you've been producing, dog.
Oh, the worst part of the job.
He has been zooming, moving in and out. He's got going to the Zoom thing. He's got.
This is why I wanted to put it off for so long.
Yeah, he's got a lot more work to, but it looks a lot cleaner. It's a lot cleaner.
I can't even hear him breathing over there. He's been just working over there.
He is working. All right, so we got a good conversation, a good baseball conversation. Let's stay on that. We obviously have a lot more to talk about outside of baseball, so I don't want to just have this show all about baseball, but I want to talk a little bit about last night because I think we saw some positive things.
And we have Ask Mikey and Mitch.
It's Wednesday, so as always, Ask Mikey and Mitch. And other sports news, though, before we get to this, no, actually, we're not even going to do that. We're going to stick with baseball.
Yeah, stay right here. We're here.
We're
home.
We're here. All right, LSU baseball played McNeese last night. They won 16-0 in 7 innings. Jared Jones hit 3 home runs, first time since 2009. Our teammate Leon Landry did it at Mississippi State. This is after he hit 9 home runs early in the season before SEC play started, then got benched, sat on the bench the whole year, and then came back and got a start middle of the second game of the Mississippi State series and hit 3 home runs. So ended up with 12 for the year. And he was the last player to do that, which that shocks me a little bit. But I guess people won't really hit 3 home runs in a game. That doesn't happen very often. But Jared Jones looked great in the leadoff spot. A couple of new guys in the lineup. Pitching staff looked as good as they've looked all year. And then some may say, "Oh, well, it's McNeese. It's not the SEC." Yeah, true. You saw what happened against Southern, though. You saw what happened against some of these other midweek teams or some of these other teams. It doesn't matter who's playing. If the pitchers are throwing strikes, they're throwing strikes. I don't care who's playing. It wasn't like McNeese was chasing a ton out the zone. Like, they were getting ahead of guys. They were throwing a bunch of strikes, and they're filling it up. That's what I like to see. I don't know about you. I don't know if you were able to watch it last night at all.
Yeah, I saw a good bit of it, man. And there's a couple of things. For me, things that I saw that I liked a lot kind of came from the offensive side. Obviously, we can sit here and talk about Jared Jones. That was an incredible performance. 3 homers, beautiful, right? But there's a couple other things I like to see. You mentioned one of them earlier. The first one was Paxton hitting the ball, the opposite field double. Yep. That was absolutely hammered. That's a very good sign. I have not seen him use that side of the field enough this year, and especially as of late. So getting to see him do that, to me, feels like he's inching his way closer to being where he needs to be. But the other big one was, let's be honest, this kid started the year in right field and led off, right? Jake Brown. Now, I don't know where it's going to go from here, but he got a chance to play against the hometown team and finally hit his first home of the year. We know how that is, or it's not even his first home of the year, his first home in his LSU career. We know how that is. Once you kind of get that off your chest and off your back, sometimes it just goes. So I'll be interested to see if that is going to propel him back into the lineup and he starts playing more. And if he does, what does he do with it? Because something like that and another dynamic player like speed with some ability, you can add that into Paxton getting going. That can really start to make this offense run. So I'll be interested to see if that's kind of what happens and what kind of opportunity he gets going forward.
Lloyd, you got any comments from the game last night at all? Nobody's heard your voice yet today, so I figured
I feel like people are probably thrilled about that.
maybe.
No,
I'm not though.
No, I was interested to see mostly in the more from what I got from the game was in the post game presser where it felt like you had wanted to see maybe that it would be a time where he being Coach Jay Johnson, that he would be a little bit more fired up, but it didn't feel like there was anything there that he was really excited about. All he said was that was the best game we played all year. And then he went through it and he's like, I didn't know what lineup I was going to put out there. And this was probably 10 minutes before the game. He said, I wasted more paper than anybody in Louisiana. And so you can tell that he still doesn't have a firm belief in who his 9 are. Right. And Bear Jones obviously looks like your prototypical leadoff hitter, so it makes a ton of sense. I don't know why it took so long.
He's stretching doubles. Like he's
doing it.
Yeah, look, we talked about he's an athletic big man, right? Like he's not, this big he's not going to steal a bunch of bases, but he can move.
He
can
can
move. Ball in
move.
the gap, and he can run when you need him to run. And look, you saw the Yankees do it. You saw the Cubs do it with Rizzo. Yeah. You know what I mean? They threw him in the leadoff spot. Bear Jones has the highest on-base percentage on the team. I know he strikes out a little bit, but he also walks. So he gets on base. He's got a lot of juice. It looked really good. They scored 16 runs, right? So everybody, had a little piece of that.
Total bags in a game is a lot.
What's that?
14 total bags in one game is a lot.
That's a lot. It's nice when you got 12 of them coming on 3 swings.
12 of them coming on a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
Left, right, and center.
He went to all 3 parts of the field. Left field, center field, right field, in that order. He went in
that order, yeah.
He went in that order, which is impressive. For me, the interesting move was Kucherov got his first start. I think was a great time for it at shortstop. The freshman shortstop out of California. I've heard a lot about him as far as being really good defensively. Yeah, obviously he's going to take some time to get off. It's his first start, dude. Like he's super nervous, like I would imagine, and so I don't really want to. You don't want to look too much into the offensive side, but I was like that Jay actually got him out there.
Do you think that was more of a? Because the way that Jay phrased it was that Braswell's played like 35 straight games, that he was needing a day, and this felt like a good opportunity to get Kucherov going and give him an opportunity to start, or is this a Braswell leads the SEC in errors? Let's see kind of what else we have here, because from what Braswell's done on the offensive side, you can't really complain about. I think it's been more than what you expected, but defensively,
less than what you expected.
Much less than what you expected. And the way that this team's constructed, its pitching defense, and being able to see if Kucherov can do kind of the same thing offensively. I don't know if that was let's see what we've got, or just give Braswell a day off.
I think it was a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think this is where competition breeds excellence, right? You being able to have someone there sitting and waiting in the wing that's capable, possibly, right? If he's capable and able to get in there and do it, now the competition becomes real. So you either get a better version of Braswell, or you get Kucherov, who just slides in and does that or better, right? So I think situations like this is where schools that are like this big, with this many guys that can come in that are capable, where it can kind of put you over the top and get you to the spot where you kind of need to be in position to make some noise in the postseason.
I think it's a little bit of both, right? I think that giving Braswell a day off, maybe giving him because you got Monday off, but also giving him and Sunday off. So maybe giving him like a stretch of hey, keep your mind clear type thing. Also putting a guy in who hasn't gotten a start and has very limited experience, like giving him an opportunity to get his feet wet. And look, maybe he went out there and did really well, which showed Jay something and say, okay, I got to see if I can get him in the lineup a little bit more. Braswell is still the starter, but this guy's not as far back as we thought maybe he was.
An attaboy.
To start the season. Yeah. So I'm glad I got to see him get a start. Obviously, Larson got another start. I think he deserved that.
But it's hard to understate Paxton Kling. It's actually it's not it's becoming a habit now.
What?
His hitting.
So that's what I wanted to talk about, right? We talked about it a little bit in our group text as it was happening. Everything has been that could go wrong for Paxton Kling early in the season has gone wrong. Right now, before last night's game, he only had 76 at bats. That's nothing, right? Nothing. Yeah. That your average can jump up in a heartbeat when you get hot with 76 at bats.
It can change.
Exactly. And so Paxton comes in the game, and we start talking about, he's gotten a couple games in a row where he's had doubles, like laser doubles, not doubles down the line inside the bag or bloop doubles, like balls in the gap that are outfielders instantly just start chasing, That's what you want to see as a hitter. Like in BP, you're not looking to hit homers. You're looking to hit these balls in the gap that the center fielder and right fielder, center fielder and left fielder turn and just run because they know they can't get to it. Right? He did that a couple times. Then yesterday had a couple breaks go his way. Ball down the line that the third baseman tried to backhanded it, long throw. Paxton beats it out. Technically, the first baseman kind of drops it, gives him an infield single. That's a big break on his side, right? Like that's a nice little it's a confidence booster. Then he hits a ball up in the air, fouls out, catcher clanks it, drops it, right? And I'm not that's not gonna get him necessarily hits, but it's okay. Things are starting to not go against me anymore. I'm starting to see my luck change, and sometimes that starts to give you a little bit different mindset. And then after that, he went right center field double, and that's the swing that we've been waiting to see all year and see the ball get driven to the opposite direction. Me and Jared talked about this for the last month. Until he does that, I'm not going to be sold that he's made the adjustments, and I finally got to see that. So I was pretty pumped about his performance last night. What about you, Jay?
I would love, that's what I'm saying. I love that. We've been talking about and wanting to see him get back to using the big part of the field. When people are struggling, it's very easy to say, oh, he finally hit a ball hard, and it's usually like a hook double down the pull side line. That never really means you're back. And so, like you said, the couple breaks that happened his way, and that kind of keeps your spirits up, that kind of keeps you in the game, that kind of keeps your numbers somewhat decent, because let's be honest, people just look at it. This just is what it is, right? For you to have that, and then you back it up by hitting the double in the gap, using the big part of the field, it's this could be coming around, right? Yep. This could be coming around. For me, I'm going to keep standing on the table and talking about this one because I'm not quite sure exactly what he's going for here. And we're at a point in the season where someone like this you would think is kind of already stretched out in the sense that he's ready for more. But Cade Anderson threw 3 innings again. He struck out 4. He had no walks, but he only threw 50 pitches. Is he not going to be used this weekend, or is he going to be a guy that you kind of come up and put him in tight situations? I would love to see him in that Sunday role. I would love to see him bring that kind of command and control to that Sunday spot to keep you in games much, much longer than they have been in games over the past month.
Agreed.
Well, because you saw the addition of one more guy, a guy that you've only seen in one inning of work throughout the entire year, and Cade Woods came in, and I thought he looked – and I know it's a very small sample size, but
I had turned the game off by the time he came in.
Yeah, but the way that he had finished that inning, obviously gets a punch out, but he was throwing uninhibited. It didn't look like he was hurt at all.
They had the velo up there?
Yeah, 93.
Okay.
91, 93 is where he was kind of sitting, and it was only one – it felt like – I think it was only one batter he faced, but to go in there and be able to throw and how he was acting on the mound, it wasn't all right, let me see how I feel. He was attacking hitters and wanted to prove that he should be pitching. Well, and so I think they asked him after the game, and it was an injury thing.
Of course it was.
Yeah, so this wasn't he can't play.
Right.
He's just been unable to pitch. And so if you're able to get a guy like that can maybe move into, okay, maybe he's your midweek guy.
Exactly. Or you know you're going to be able to get him to throw a couple innings in the middle of a game. That's a huge boost to the bullpen. And then, staying on the bullpen conversation, Sammy Dutton made an appearance last night. We hadn't seen him in a minute.
Last night looked good.
He looked great. Threw 2 innings, walked one guy, but got out of the inning that he walked. At some point. And his slider was pretty sharp. He was throwing 94 like he had been throwing before, earlier in the year. Up until that time, up until last game where he walked one guy, that was his first walk of the season. So he's been around the zone, which our staff hasn't been. So that was encouraging. Hopefully we get to see him in the bullpen and throw over the weekend. He threw 2 innings. He probably wouldn't be available till at least Saturday, I would imagine. Depending on what Jay wants to do. He'd probably be available Friday, actually. That's 2 days rest. Yeah, for sure. As a bullpen guy, definitely available on Friday. So that was good. And then Aiden Moffitt came out, ended the game throwing 100. And he looked really good. He was all over the zone, or in the zone, not all over the zone. He was all in the zone, and he looked really good. So those are all encouraging moments for me. Jay,
I would agree. That's those guys I touched on, seeing those guys. So that pitching staff threw 108 pitches last night. 11 Ks, 2 walks, right?
Walks.
Like if we're talking about a guy throwing if you looked at one guy and he threw a perfect game and he had 108 pitches, 11 Ks, 2 walks, you'd be like, that's great. Obviously, getting that out of the staff bodes well for like, okay, this is the formula to do it. Because you look at it the other side, McNeese threw 178 pitches to the team, right? They get 16 runs, right? I feel like LSU's been not obviously throwing 170 pitches, but they've been more towards that side where you're walking a lot, you're not getting the strikeouts that I guess you could use or need in those situations, and they've been putting themselves in counts in situations that's not advantageous for pitching.
Yeah.
It's way hitters. And last night they were able to kind of switch that role a little bit. So it seems like nothing. Because you're like, oh, they're supposed to be McNeese or whatever, blah, 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 blah. It seems like nothing.
Right.
But this is how these things kind of get going sometimes. You don't really notice it until it's actually rolling. But it's times like this that can kickstart the rest of the season.
I'm glad you said that, because when you listen to fans or other people watching the game and like the comments, if you're reading comments that they're commenting on, Instagram posts, LSU posts, or Twitter posts, or anything that we post on Twitter, it's like, well, great, do it against SEC teams. I understand that, rightfully so. You have every right to feel that way because they're 3-9. They haven't done this against an SEC team yet. But to your point, Jay, they haven't done this really to anybody. They lost to Southern last week. So you haven't really seen these guys really get hot. So to have a game like this where everything goes well, where Milam gets a bases loaded double down the line, where Kling is starting to hit opposite field doubles, he gets a couple multi-hit game. You have some freshmen get some opportunities. Bullpen guys go out there, don't walk guys, and throw a bunch of strikes. It doesn't matter who the competition is. You're seeing the success happen, and that can carry over into the weekend. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I think that's going to be a huge thing to look at this weekend. They play a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series back on the normal schedule, and they still have everything they want in front of them. They just got to go out there and start winning some games.
Yeah, but it's
the perfect
go
weekend
time now. Like it's for this club. It's go time. It's time to start getting on the wagon, to start pushing wins and putting W's on the board, to start feeling good about yourself because you this is where the halfway point is, and you're running out of opportunities to do it here on forward.
No doubt. So
and you got to see one more guy that's continued to make, I guess, appearances from not pitching very often. Cam Johnson got in again, so you're starting to see him work himself into a rotation where he does Cam Johnson things, where he walks a guy, but then the strikeout stuff looks elite. So that's another arm because you're going to have to find somebody else at some point.
You can tell when Cam throws. He's starting to he tries to get a feel for it. So he's only throwing 93, 94. And then when he starts feeling, he throws a few strikes in a row, you start seeing him rear back.
95.
You saw 96, 97 there. It's like, oh, he's got way more in the tank. He's just trying to make sure that he can figure out his release point. And so these are your guys you're going to have to count on either this year or definitely next year. So the fact that you're seeing them play and play more consistently in these situations, I think you're starting to see Jay kind of find the guys he's gonna put out there. So it's going to be interesting to see how he manages the bullpen. I think that's going to be the biggest thing this weekend. What's the staff in the bullpen going to look like? Who's he going to come out? Is he going to throw guys that he hasn't really thrown yet in the SEC games?
I'm also wondering this, too, because we haven't seen the best of this guy this year. Remember, last year, he didn't touch a baseball and get on the mound all fall. And he didn't start pitching until, like, midway through the year. But I'm wondering, and the numbers haven't, in the sense of the velo. The velo hasn't been like crazy different, but I'm wondering if there's been a little bit of like a dead arm feel for Gavin Guidry. And if he can get through that spot, will you see him start to tick? Will you see him start to feel and throw the way he did towards the back end of the year last year?
Yeah, you need him to step up, or somebody to step up that had his mentality last year. He still has that mentality. He's going to go out there and hopefully turn it around from what's been going on early in the year, because you need that guy. You need that stopper. And we haven't really had that. So Griffin Herring's probably the only guy that's been able to do that this year. Going to be interesting. We'll talk more about this and really preview this series on Friday. Jay will maybe preview it. If you want to watch Jay on SEC Network, he may be previewing it before we do it. So we'll see. Maybe we'll tape it and copy some of the stuff that y'all talk about. Who knows?
Yeah, send us their show notes.
Y'all get way more stats than we do over there. So. But it is Ask Mikey and Mitch. So I don't know. Do we have any questions?
We do.
Perfect.
Would you like to answer some of them?
I would love to try to answer some of them.
All right, Dave Vendor in the chat. He sends a question across. Ask Mikey and Mitch, do you think Gidger will ever get a chance to play his primary position?
Of shortstop.
Of shortstop.
I don't know. I mean, I honestly, that's a great question because I know he came in here as a two-way guy, more of a hitter than a pitcher, and now he's the pitcher. So I don't know if they just said, hey, this is what you're going to be, or they're going to give him a shot next year.
Yeah, I'm going to go with I don't know, and I'm going to lean more towards the no.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it doesn't happen this year, like it's a lot harder to not be pitching and then be part of the pitching equation, if you will. If I only got to give you 1 inning, maybe if I only got to give you 2 innings, 2+ innings, right? It's a lot harder to not have really swung a bat competitively for 2 years and step in and make some noise. And then if you go another full year this year, now you're going to go into next year as well and be like, so I don't know. I'm gonna lean towards no because that slider really plays when it's on, and especially if you can start pairing it with the fastball with some velo, it really plays. But I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, next one up. Coming from our guy Fonz, asking him, with Cade only throwing 3 innings, what are the chances we see him this weekend? I know we touched on it a little bit earlier.
That's what you would expect, right? Like, he only threw 3. So you'd imagine on Sunday he's probably available to throw 1 or 2 or 3, depending on what they need. I'm still in the camp that I wish he would start, but yes, I think you could definitely see him.
I think, LSU right now, their backs on the mat, they're probably at like a 7 count. It's hard for me to believe that you're going to go into another weekend where you only threw him 50 pitches on Tuesday and he's not going to pitch at all this weekend. It's really, really hard for me to believe that you're going to leave that kind of ability, that kind of competitiveness out of the equation at all this weekend. So I think he will. I really hope he will, and we will see.
Yep.
This weekend.
All right, next one up. Coming from Michael Roby, asking him, when you see the flag blowing in or out, does that change your confidence in hitting before the game starts? I imagine this is preferably at Alex Box.
For me, no.
Yeah.
For me, no, really. Honestly, I would hope this LSU team kind of know because the 3 guys that they really have that could scare you, that could do damage, they all got real power anyway. It really doesn't matter. Like, don't get me wrong, we've seen balls kind of get blown back in, but those guys got the ability to cut the wind anyway. And I don't think that this team, and I think this team kind of knows that too, they're not built around the long ball. Like, they're going to have some guys be able to drive balls in gaps, play some small ball, move the baseball around for them to actually maximize their potential. So, no, not really. And as a player, it didn't really bother me.
Yeah, I don't think if it's giving you confidence, that's not a good sign, right? Obviously, if you're going to see the wind, you want to see it go out more than in. But sometimes when I saw the wind blowing out, I had the worst games of the season because if you change the way, what's that?
Especially out the left field, right?
Especially out the left field, right? Like if you saw the howling out to left field, and you say, okay, well, this is what I'm going to try to do. You change your approach and you get out of what you're trying to. Like I never could go up there and say I'm gonna hit a homer or try to hit a homer because I would come out of the approach I'm trying to do. You just gotta let it happen, and if the ball goes over the fence, it goes over the fence. So if I saw the wind, I changed it. I always played worse. So when I saw the wind blowing in, I played better because I knew that it didn't matter what I did. If I tried to hit homers, it was gonna be a fly ball. So I would literally just try to hit. I would pepper line drives up the middle, and it would simplify my approach and it would help. So if it's giving you confidence going out, then I think we're looking at the wrong way. So I would say no. It doesn't matter to the guys on the team, but maybe some guys could see it out and could say I'm going to yank this ball down the line, and they get locked in that way. I wasn't that way. Lloyd?
Oh, I love when the wind's blowing out. No.
I bet you did.
Yeah. This is actually a couple from Twitter, Forever LSU. Why isn't Jay letting Cam Johnson face more batters?
Well, I think he's yeah, go ahead, Jay.
He's got to out there and actually be competitive from first pitch to last pitch. I think that's probably the first thing for him. So I think Jay's getting him to a spot now where he feels like he's gotten a win out of him. He's gotten some confidence up on him. And, let me get him out now before maybe it might not be great. Maybe he might still feel bad about himself about how it's going and try to build him up that way.
Yeah, I think he's easing him in, right? I think he's giving him more opportunity to pitch. He's pitching him more frequently. Doesn't mean he's going to throw him for more innings. Hey, start building your confidence. Show me that you can get through one inning. Show me you can get through 2 innings. And I think you're going to start seeing build up game after game. And so I think he's bringing him along slow, and I'm okay with it.
All right, next one up from Twitter. We have B21 Douglas.
Nice.
What do you think Jay should do to right the ship for us to make the tournament?
What do I think he should do to right the ship?
Put on spikes and a glove and grab a bat.
Man, honestly, I think the only thing he can do is get these guys to believe in themselves and continue to push forward and not feel like the season's over with. Motivate them, understand what they need to do, or what needs to be said to them to motivate them to make them play better. Because at the end of the day, it's the players that need to play better. And I think if there's a coaching move he can make, maybe have guys get more consistent at bats instead of trying to move around a little bit, and have a rotation of bullpens that are they know their role, but they have to throw strikes. If he doesn't have confidence in them throwing strikes, he's going to continue to try to find someone that will. So, there's really no magic pill. The players got to just do it.
Yeah, Mike touched on it early. Jay's probably one of the best coaches in the country at continuing to keep everyone engaged and understanding that this may be your opportunity or this may be your moment. But I think it's starting to get to the time of the year where you got to start narrowing that number and start getting to the guys who you know is going to perform and who you know you want to give the most shots to, and ride or die with those guys.
Agreed.
Next one up from Fortenberry _Will with 1L. Who do y'all want to see get a chance to be our Game 3 starter?
I mean, we've answered this a lot.
Log into the show.
I think it's a pretty consensus at this point. I mean, I would like to see Griffin Herring because he's got a little bit more experience get it, but I also want to see the experience being given to
Kate Anderson.
This is really no slight on Gavin. Like, please understand what I'm saying. But can y'all name me the last time where at LSU you remember seeing a closer who was the closer for 2 to 3 years straight and it was just dominant performance?
Nope.
No.
So my point is like, if Gavin's not throwing his best right now, let Griffin stay back there. Let him be that part of the bullpen, and maybe you'll get Gavin to come back around to either where he's been or somewhere close to it again. But I would love to see Cade kind of slide into that, and now you're able to throw Griffin wherever you need it throughout the weekend.
Agreed.
Next one up, Zach at ZMM _225. As of right now, do you think the boys will go 11-7 the rest of the way in the SEC? I think that would get us in the tournament. Thoughts?
That sounds quote for quote what Mike Rooney said when he first came on earlier, that if they go 11-7, that I think it would 14-16 would get them in, which I do believe it gets them in. Do I think they go 11-7? Yeah, I think they can beat that. I think this weekend is going to be a determining factor on if they can go better than 11-7 or not. If they win this series, I think you definitely can see them beat the 11-7 number. But 14-16, 11-7 in conference, a 2 seed at a regional, that regional, whoever's hosting is not going to be very happy. But yeah, I think they can do that.
I think they can. We spoke about it last show. We spoke about it last week. That 14 to 15 to 16 win range is 100% within due. Like, they can definitely get there, but you have to start playing quality ball. And you don't have to win every series if you end up somehow sneaking a sweep in here or there or somewhere. But I definitely think that those 3 numbers are very possible for them. And if you get to those spots, like he said, if they don't get the home bid, wherever they got to go, whoever that is, they're not going to be very happy about it.
Yep.
As of now, they're projected to go to the Charlottesville Regional with Virginia, Kansas State, LSU as the 3, and Columbia as the 4.
So they are the last 4 in as of now in the midseason projections of
bubble talk,
the tournament stuff. Now, the 2 and 3 seeds don't really matter because they play each other. So, like, if you're a 2 seed or you're a 3 seed, it really doesn't really matter at all in the grand scheme of it, because you're going to play the same team anyway. So yeah. Any other ones?
Yes. Ask him. Do kids not practice the plate approach like runners on third, one out, and taking a breaking ball to oppo for their base hit or a ground out to score the run?
Jay, you start with this one.
I'm gonna go ahead and guess that a national championship winning coach has infused some situational hitting into his practices and into their fall and into the season at some point. That's just gonna be my guess. I would bet a lot of money that he has. So I'm thinking so. Yeah.
Yeah, they've definitely practiced it and they definitely do it. But just saying, take the curveball the other way is a lot easier said than done. And you don't always want to hit the curveball the other way.
You might not always get a curveball.
And it's hard to replicate that because you don't have the other guy throwing the curveballs to you. So it's a difficult task. It's something very hard to do. When people say, like, when the shift's happening, just slap it over there. It's not that easy. Like, it's very hard to just do that, especially if it's not part of your game. And so, and I say part of your game in a sense of like, hey, they're shifting you for a reason. Like, they're not just shifting you because it's something that they think's going to happen, because the law of numbers tells it it's going to happen. And they're going to throw you to where it makes it happen. So if you start trying to shoot it the other way, all of a sudden you take the chance of you getting hit and you make those way lower than they already are. So it's not that easy, but yes, they are definitely practicing it. I can promise you that.
Next one up from Paul Zarang. Ask Mikey and Mitch. Opposite of Kling, Braswell has been struggling in the dirt to the point of stumbling. Explain the hurdle there and what advice would you give him to pull out of it?
He's talking about defensively, I'm
yes.
assuming?
My God.
I mean, I've never played short. That's a tough deal, man. Like,
I got the most shortstop experience in this room.
You do have the most shortstop experience in this room.
I don't know. I was kind of nice. I played short when I was 10, left-handed.
I played a little short my freshman year on the freshman team. Didn't work. That didn't last long.
Let that man run.
But what I would tell him is, like, you can't. I mean, the minute you start second guessing and doubting yourself defensively is the minute you start making a ton of errors. But that is easier said than done, because I understand it. I understand it's a tough thing. But just you've done it. You've done it a long time. You've been there before. Trust in your work and trust in your ability, and just let it come to you. Don't try to force it.
I think that's, you said it perfectly. When I think of Braswell, I think of it this way. I think of, you're not a young guy, and somehow still two top of the league type SEC teams have both said you're good enough to come be our starting shortstop. So it's very obvious that the ability and the talent's there. Now you need to kind of get out of your own way mentally, if you will, and just go play your game. You're good enough to do it. Go do it.
Yep.
All right, two more here. Second one. Ask Eminem. Why do y'all think that Jake Brown isn't getting as much playing time as he anymore?
Well, I think he got. Well, Jay says he has had a knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
So that could have been an issue there. I think that Jay realizes that Kling's starting to play better, and so he is getting the nod in center field, which I agree with. Larson's been playing really well, so he gave him some opportunity. Bingham's been playing well, so he's been letting him have the opportunities. So I think it's more of, hey, he kind of got banged up, and while he was banged up, some of these other guys started playing pretty decently, and so Jay was kind of trying to give them an opportunity to run with it. That's would be my take on that.
Yeah, I would imagine, one, the injury probably played a little bit of a part in it, but like you said, we sat here and we just spoke about 4 different outfielders. We didn't even talk about Josh Pearson as well, right?
Yep.
Like, they have bodies there, and they have not played well as a team. So when you don't play well as a team, of course, your coach is looking for someone to give you a spark. They've kind of rotated and moved a lot of guys in and out of that outfield spot, and being hurt kind of puts you in the back burner of that a little bit, and now you kind of have to get yourself back into it. So I think that's kind of all played into that mix of it. And like I said, he's wondering, when you get that monkey off your back, does he go now?
The last one. Ask Eminem. Can you tell me who was called up to the show by the Rays on this day in 2015?
Was it today?
Randy Arozarena.
I had no idea that was today. Was that today? I guess it was me. I was the only person here that played for the Rays.
Wasn't me.
I mean,
Man, I should have, like, if I knew it was that, I would just posted something cool on Instagram or something, like, showed that.
anniversary.
Yeah, I got called up today. I was in Miami. I meet the team in Miami, interleague play. April 10th, so you've only been playing in the big leagues for the big league season had only been going on for like 2-3 weeks at that time, maybe not quite 3. And in Ray's fashion, we had a bullpen day in the second week of the season in Miami in the National League before they had the universal DH. So my debut, I flew in not knowing I had no idea where to go. And I've never been to Miami Stadium. So I didn't know where to go. I went into like the loading dock and I was asking around. I finally got to where I needed to be, got in the clubhouse and, changed and super excited but super nervous because didn't really know what to expect. And Kevin Cash is our manager who's still there. He's awesome. One of my favorite managers of all time. He says, hey, you're get ready to pinch hit early. Okay. Awesome. I hadn't done that much in my life, since LSU really. And second inning, our bullpen guy gets taken out. I get my debut. Second inning off the bench facing Dan Herron. Dan Herron throws 86-mile-an-hour cutters. I felt like I was floating. Didn't feel like I could touch the dirt. Didn't know what was going on. Wanted the guy to throw 110 because I was ready for the 110. Dan Herron did not throw 110. Threw 86-mile-an-hour cutters. And I hit a ball, like, great swing, just way early. Off the end of my bat, soft liner. I thought it was going to be a hit. D. Gordon comes out of nowhere, leaps and catches it, snags it, no hit. So debut was awesome. Got that out the way. Went to a really nice steak dinner in Miami with my family and Colby, my trainer who was on the show. He now trains way better players than I was. Goldschmidt and Arenado and Justin Thomas and Tiger Woods and Koepka and all those guys. Yeah, he does that. But he was there, and it was awesome. Awesome experience. So thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that. I didn't mean to go off into a tangent, but really, really cool moment in my life. Dream come true to make it there. Obviously, I wish I was still playing, but very, very fortunate. Yeah.
Dan Herron's Twitter handle is I throw 88.
Yeah, he's awesome, dude. He's if you don't follow Dan Herron on Twitter, follow him. He's so funny.
Yeah, he works for I don't know where he works. I don't know where he works. Oh, the Diamondbacks. I do know where he works.
Oh, he works for the Diamondbacks? He pitched for the Diamondbacks. Yeah, he used to throw hard, and then he stopped throwing hard.
And he throws 88. But he works in, like, their pitching lab.
Very funny.
Yes.
He's very funny.
He's on Part of My Take all the time.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, thanks for bringing up good memories. I had no idea it was today.
That's crazy.
I wish I'd have posted something.
Still can.
From
the studio.
I don't have it ready to go. And then my first day was 3 days later, I think.
Yabo.
Third at bat.
Off of?
Mark Burley.
Oh.
Yeah.
Probably had a perfect game going.
He was in the. It was
finally came back out because Mark didn't throw very hard either. So he kind of got himself into.
He almost had 300 wins though. Going to be a borderline Hall of Famer, maybe a Hall of Famer. Who knows? Threw a perfect game before with the White Sox.
I have a no-hitter in there as well too.
Yep. They were beating the shit out of us. Again, came off the bench again. I did not get the start. They were beating us like 10-1 or something. In the 6th, they took all the starters out. I got to go in, got in at bat, homer. It was awesome. Yeah. All right.
That's awesome.
That's
it.
That's all we got for Ask Mikey and Mitch. We appreciate all the questions as always. Ask Mikey and Mitch is brought to you by our friends at Heineken. It is baseball season, getting warmer, boys.
People are asking you to buy crawfish for the next tailgate.
We got crawfish. We got crawfish coming in this Saturday at my house. Not for everybody.
Oh,
my wife's birthday. We are per her request. I want a crawfish boil with family crawfish boil. So we got that going on. It'll be the second time I've had crawfish all year. That's very low. I haven't had them very often.
Aren't they super expensive right now?
Yeah, I think they're going down a little bit since we've gotten some rain and all that stuff. But yes, early on they were extremely expensive. But yeah, crawfish boils, Weather's feeling good after this, little mini storm. They always cancel school, and it's never as bad as they think it is.
It was kind of rough.
For a second.
Yeah, it was dark as shit
for
this
a second,
morning.
though.
That wind was something serious.
We had probably about 45 minutes worth of bad weather, and that was over. At least in my house.
Yeah, did you see New Orleans?
New Orleans was bad. But
they're prepared.
Doesn't seem like it.
Well,
doesn't ever seem like they're prepared. But yeah, so weather's getting warmer, weather's getting better. As Mikey and Mitch brought to you by Heineken Silver. Pop open a Heineken Silver, 95 calories, 4% alcohol. Great, been an awesome partner of ours since the beginning, since the inception of. There we go. Look at that. Since the inception of Mik'd Up, Land Rover Peretti also been a great partner of ours. Appreciate.
Talked to Mike yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yeah, Jay's got the experience there. Jay's got the connections there. Jay's got. He's been a very frequent member of the Peretti Land Rover family. So
some would say we have relations.
Yeah, we appreciate that. All right, let's get to the Seggies. Mistake of the day is brought to you by our friends at Doe's Eat Place. Lloyd, what do we got?
The mistake of the day goes to 1 and 2, Scotty Scheffler and Sam Burns. I'll throw you in there as well by making the bold proclamation that both would withdraw from the Masters if their wives goes into labor this weekend. So no matter where they are in the tournament, if Scotty Scheffler is leading on Saturday, he said he would withdraw and go see the birth of his child, which would make me pose the question to both of you. What would you do?
I'll do the same thing.
No, you wouldn't.
Great answers from Sam Burns and Scotty Scheffler. Great answers. I would do the same thing.
Am I frozen?
Nope.
Yeah.
I can see the eyes.
I go see my young and born too, man.
Game 7 of the World Series.
Hey man, family first.
Family first.
My wife comes first.
My rock.
Quarterback at the top, baby.
Now, if the wife would just hold off, keep that thing in there for a day.
McVay, like Sean McVay. McVay said, my kid knows not to come on this day.
Yeah,
hold it in.
Hold it in.
For me.
For the family.
So that is my mistake of the day because, to even put that up.
On another mistake of the day, did y'all see so did you watch the par 3 competition at the Masters today?
I did.
So did you hear what who was it? Who was the announcer?
It's the guy that used to
and he's awesome. And he's so innocent. It was such an innocent comment. But if you're a golfer and you hit a ball heavy,
Sean McDonough.
Yeah, Sean's awesome. And you hit a ball kind of heavy, hit more grass than you want. You say you hit it fat. Well,
I've got
who
it right here.
was it?
It was Scotty Scheffler's sister.
Scotty Scheffler. So in the par 3 competitions, your caddies are usually your wife or your girlfriend or fiance or family or whoever it is, and then your family is with you and they can take shots. This is their way of being able to participate in the par 3 competition and say, I hit it on the green on hole 6
7,
or whatever it was. And so his sister takes a shot and hits it heavy. But I guess that would have worked too. That wouldn't have worked either.
Sarah Scheffler. A little fat for shot. She's obviously very thin. Sarah Scheffler. A little fat.
Little fat is the worst way he could have put it, dude.
He said the shot. Obviously she's very thin. And honestly, if he doesn't correct himself, somebody on the internet is going to see that and not people are going to joke and make fun of him, but in the way it should be made fun of, and other people are going to say, "Oh, this guy is
him.
This guy is being so
he's fat shaming."
Yeah, he's fat shaming. Come on,
the way he had to apologize.
He did it quick too. He's like, "Damn it,
I'm a pro."
Yeah,
fat. The shot.
Obviously, she's very fit. That's what he said, and that was the best part. Because he's like, come on, someone's going to try to do something stupid here.
I have to apologize. I
great.
don't know if I'll ever pick up this microphone again.
Yeah, that's great. Fat, the shot. Obviously, she's very fit. What a move. Honestly, that could have been a curtain call.
Yeah.
His recovery from that.
Proud.
Speaking of curtain calls are brought to you by our friends at Assured Partners and me. What we got today, boys?
I have my curtain call.
Look at that. Lloyd, you produced hard today.
Yeah, I know. I'm not. Friday's going to be bad for y'all.
We need to do it again because
mailing that one in.
Jay will be back on the Zooms.
This is the curtain call. Somebody called for Tiger Woods' golf ball.
Tiger was preparing to walk off the course.
And it hit my hand first, and I didn't initially catch it.
Oh, he got off the bobble.
Yeah.
Double catch.
Great throw by Tiger.
Tiger.
Away from the defender and everything.
To his head as Tiger was preparing
He
to
said,
walk
no,
off the
if I can
course.
throw this low, someone's going to snag it.
And
Away from the defender where only his receiver can get it. Wow.
Touching that thing, huh?
Wow. Hey, just enough. Like, he was fitting it in between the safety and the cornerback. The cornerback sat, safety over the top. He knew he couldn't throw a bullet because he had to get it up over, but he also couldn't lob it because the safety was going to come there. He needed to throw it in one spot, and he did. Good for him.
Yeah, he gets to keep that ball. I think you said something like, Tiger hit me, I'm open. I went in my pie hole, and he was like, got his attention, and great catch, bobble, everything.
Great, all around. Great throw.
The throws,
great catch.
Elite.
Guy was ready for his moment. He didn't mess it up.
Tiger still got it.
Of course.
Once I saw that.
Everybody thinks it's just a Tiger effect. Oh, Tiger's going to go, and he's going to win the Masters. He's going to be a top 10. I hope to God that happens. It's just going to be hard. He hadn't played in a long time this year. But we've said this. If there was a major,
this is the one.
For him to be able to go and do it, this is the one. And so we shall see what happens. He plays in the afternoon tomorrow. It is Masters week. I am so fired up about the Masters. But moving on to curtain call. What?
A mere $2 will net you $252
yeah,
from Tiger
sure
Woods.
You snuck it in there,
I
didn't you?
did. Yes, indeed.
Yes, you did.
No reason, he actually put just $2.
Just $2.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Jay, what you got for your curtain call?
Whoever else put it in there, so it's obviously yours, but I was on the same plane as you. So
No. You can. I didn't put Jackson Holiday, actually.
You didn't or you did?
I did not.
I put it in there for.
That's what I was going to put. So I would love to give my curtain call to Jackson Holiday, who has done absolutely nothing but rake.
20 years old.
And he has found his way to a call-up today. And he's one of the – obviously he's not the first with Wyatt Langford actually making it out of spring training, but one of the first young guns in this class to kind of break into the big leagues and get a debut this year. So
obviously son of Matt Holiday. Doesn't have the same forearms that Matt Holiday has.
Oh, pythons.
But seems like he's more athletic. Matt Holiday was athletic, but Jackson Holiday is going to be a superstar. He's 20 years old. Probably should have made the team out of spring training. Got off to a blazing hot start in AAA and gets the opportunity to go to the big leagues. And what a moment for him. I think this is waiting, but this is how it happened.
First, I just want to commend you for how you've gone about your business down here, dude. Like, that's not easy to do. You kind of carry yourself with a chip on your shoulder, and I think these guys, they notice it.
At what point do you think he knows?
Now.
He knew when he's getting called in, right?
Walked into the room.
Yeah.
When commit came out of his mouth,
Is your admin come?
Yep.
They have come in? Shit. All right.
My brother's right in the middle of this season.
He's in this season?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, he's probably a great resource for you, right? I'm sure that you guys are tight. He's giving you good advice. And all those times that you've been.
He's like, get to it, bro. I know, and I'm going up.
Okay. So for tomorrow, trying to get guys out early. But first, tonight, I want you to call your dad. I want you to talk to him, and I want you to thank him for all the times that he's allowed you to come to the clubhouse, be on his pass list, let you hit with the big boys. That's pretty special, and it plays into a lot of what you're about. The second thing I want you to tell him is that now it's time for him to ask permission to be on Jackson Holiday's pass list.
He knew. He was like, okay, get to it.
Awesome. Hell yeah. All right, awesome. I'm fired up. I'm fired up. You've been exceptional down here, brother. You're 20 years old.
I appreciate
to handle all this stuff,
That's
dude.
awesome.
Thank you. All right. Congratulations. Thank you. Call your dad.
I mean, he is obviously going to light the world on fire. It's so funny that this is kind of brought up. Great curtain call. Me and Jay are in this group text with a bunch of our other former teammates from 09, some of the 10, some of the 11, some of the 12 guys. And we talk pretty regularly. And this conversation came up today. What is the difference? Like, what do you think? How much do you think it plays that a kid grows up around a clubhouse? Obviously the genetics matter. That's no doubt. But how much does being around the clubhouse, being around the big league feel, having a dad being able to tell you what to expect from an early age, how much does that come into play? And I think it comes into play a lot. And you see it with guys who love the game of baseball, who have the genetics, obviously are athletic, but love the game and want to learn the game at a young age. You see them have a lot of success really early on. He's walking into a big league clubhouse that he's been there a million times as a kid. So that's good for him. My curtain call, staying on the same topic of the Orioles, are the Orioles as a whole, as an organization.
As the bird?
Not the bird. For a long time, they were not looked at as a very good team. They weren't very good. They got rid of Manny Machado. Gosman and them were gone. Adam Jones left. Chris Davis had the embarrassing big contract who hit all these homers, and all of a sudden he just forgot how to hit a baseball. And so you had all of these things happening, and to the point where you had really high picks, a lot of really high picks in a row. And if you remember what the Astros did when they sucked, and they had a bunch of really high picks in a row, they hit on all of them. They hit on George Springer, which was 2011. They hit on, I forgot who they drafted after him, but then in 15 they drafted Bregman. And then they drafted Correa, and I think Correa may have been after. They drafted all these guys with the number one. They had drafted Appel, which didn't work out, but they drafted other guys who, ended up panning out. And so all of these top picks and all these draft picks that they had ended up working out, which turned into a dynasty, which turned into them winning the World Series in 2017, which turned into them being a perennial World Series team. I think they've been to 4 or 5 straight.
It's like 7.
7 straight? 7 straight AFC. AL. They're not football. 7 straight AL championship games or championship series. And I'm struggling. And so the Orioles are following that model. Orioles have drafted. They've been bad, so they've had very high picks. And they have hit on all of these high picks. Adley Rutschman, 2019, 1 overall pick. He's in the big leagues. Ryan Mountcastle, he was a first-rounder. He's in the big leagues. He's one of their best hitters in the lineup. Colton Cowser, Jordan Westbrook, Jackson Holliday gets called up. If you go look at their prospect list, they have full of 4 or 5 other guys that you're going to see in the big leagues here very soon. Orioles are going to be good for a long time. They're not going anywhere. And they did it through the draft, which I love to see. The other thing that nobody's talking about is the fact that they are bringing up Jackson Holliday. In years past, teams would hold them and keep him in the minor leagues until May so they wouldn't be a free agent. Now teams get rewarded for bringing these guys up. If Jackson Holliday wins the AL Rookie of the Year, the Orioles get another first-rounder. So again, extra first-rounder as incentive of bringing up really top-performing rookies.
That's awesome.
I love that. I think that's a good thing that happened in the CBA. It benefits both sides. Hey, listen, you don't keep this guy down from being in the big leagues when you know he deserves to be there. Even if you're not going to win it, Orioles obviously are in a different position because they can win. But teams that aren't, last place Pirates, bring up Paul Skeens, before a certain deadline, and he ends up winning NL Rookie of the Year. All of a sudden, you get an extra first-round pick to help and make your team better. So I think that was a good thing for the CBA, great thing for Jackson Holliday, and shout out to the Orioles for being, hitting on all their first-round picks and being a team to beat now in the AL. So that's all we got for today. That's all we got for this show. We'll be back live in studio on Friday from 1 to 2-ish. Jay will be on Zoom. If you want to see Jared before our show on Friday, tune in at what time?
Tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central Time, SEC Now. I think after the Missouri and Georgia game, I believe. Check us out.
Him and Peter Burns on there hanging out, SEC Now, talking baseball, talking SEC baseball. His debut on national TV. Give him a shout or give him a look. He's going to do great. We're fired up for you, man. We'll be watching, and we'll be back, like I said, live in studio from 1 to 2. If you like what you see and you like watching our show, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really does us a lot of good when you click the thumbs up button. If you can't watch us and you like listening to us or anywhere you get your pods, we appreciate all love and support. And hopefully we will see LSU win this weekend. But we're gonna preview the series on Friday. Have hopefully some other guests outside of Jared on our show. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and we will see you on Friday. Peace.